Good afternoon and welcome to FAFSA Success Tips, brought to you by the Tennessee Higher Education Commission and the Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation on behalf of the Tennessee FAFSA Challenge. I am Suzette Telly, Statewide Services Coordinator for THEC and also for Gear Up Tennessee, and I will be your host today. I'll let my other presenters introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Amber Grabowski, and I am the Gear Up Site Coordinator at Copper Bay School in Copper Hill, Tennessee.
Hi, I am Tanya McKellar, the Advise Tennessee College Advisor at Lake County High School.
And I'm Michelle Johnson, the school counselor at Lake County High School.
Hey, I'm Lacey Everett, and I'm a college access counselor with the Ayers Foundation at Union County High School.
And I am Ruthie K. Wood, and I'm also a college access counselor for the Ayers Foundation here at Union County High School.
All right. Thank you all for being with us today. We have a very brief agenda. We're going to talk just briefly about what the Tennessee FAFSA Challenge is. We're going to recognize some of our current FAFSA champions. And then we're going to delve into those best practices in FAFSA completion. So we've invited Copper Basin High School, Lake County High School, and Union County High School, all current FAFSA champions, to share some of their best practices. And then there should be time at the end for some questions and answers. So first up, the Tennessee FAFSA Challenge. This is the inaugural year, and we've really created the FAFSA Challenge to increase the number of Tennessee students completing the FAFSA, and also to recognize those schools that are helping them do that work and the FAFSA completion. So there are really three levels of recognition. The first of those is FAFSA champions, and there are two ways you can become a FAFSA champion. The first is to increase your Tennessee Promise applicants' FAFSA completion rate by 5 percentage points or more, and that's compared to the previous academic year as of the Tennessee Promise FAFSA deadline. And all of these will be compared to the previous year as of the Tennessee Promise FAFSA deadline. Or you can have 95% or more of your Tennessee Promise applicants complete the FAFSA. The second level of recognition is highest completion. That will be awarded to schools with the highest overall Tennessee Promise applicant FAFSA completion rate. And we'll award three, one for a large school, a medium school, and a small school. And the last level is most improved. That will be awarded to schools with the most improved Tennessee Promise applicant FAFSA completion rate. And again, we'll award three, one to a large school, one to a medium school, and one to a small school. I did want to give a shout out to our current FAFSA champions. This is as of 2/6. So we have 22 schools who've already reached that level. You can see we have several medium schools and small schools. We don't yet have any large schools, but I'm confident that we will by the end of the challenge. A few of the schools have asterisks next to their names, and that means they've reached that 95% or higher level of FAFSA completion. Okay, so let's start off with our FAFSA best practices. I think that's what we're all here for today. First up, we have Copper Basin High School. They are located in Copper Hill, Tennessee, which is in Polk County. They have 43 seniors, so they're a small school for our Tennessee FAFSA Challenge. And they are up 31.4% in FAFSA completion of their Tennessee Promise applicants. So, Amber, take it away.
All right, thank you. So I'm Amber Grabowski, and I do have Ireland Wilson with me. She's going to add a little bit later. She's actually one of our current seniors here at Copper Basin. Suzette, do you need me to advance slides or?
I will advance it. You'll just say next slide.
Perfect. Next slide, please. So our plan is really a year-long plan, but there's lots of things that could also be completed here kind of in the short term. And these are the 5 main points, and I'll go over each one in detail. So you can go to the next slide. So the first thing is we do have a senior RTI program. All of our students are in RTI, and of course that's used for study hall and tutoring to make sure that they are staying on track for graduation. But our seniors are together 4 times a week, 45 minutes for each day. And this gives us time, our senior advisors, myself as the Gear Up Site Coordinator, and our school counselor are able to work with our students to complete a lot of their senior tasks. So we have them work together to apply for the TN Promise, to complete their resumes, complete their FAFSA, college applications, all of those things we can work with them hand in hand. and help them to get these completed. Next slide, please. One of the biggest things I think that is helping and working here is that we do work together as a team. So the weight of this job doesn't just fall on one person's shoulders with helping make sure we get all of our seniors completed with their FAFSA, but we all, share the weight in that. So I do pull weekly reports and make sure our senior advisors are aware of who is showing us completed every week. They're also having our students send them confirmation and keep records in a portfolio, which Ireland will talk about in just a minute, so that we have records that it is completed on their end as well. And so there's, two-way communication between our students, their advisors, and then myself and our school counselor as well. Next slide, please. So we do have a lot of FAFSA events throughout the year. We started off in September with a mandatory financial literacy workshop, and we had 90% attend with a parent, and we went through, everything that they needed to know, the terminology, vocabulary, all of the steps that were going to be involved for their applications, and especially for getting their financial aid completed. And we kicked that off right at the end of September, just before the FAFSA window opened. Then later on, we have had some FAFSA nights in combination with parent-teacher conferences where parents and their student could come in order to complete their FAFSA. Or if that wasn't a good time for them, then they can also set up an appointment with myself or with our guidance counselor and come in during the school day. And a lot of time I just see they just feel a little better having someone sitting beside them saying, yes, you are doing this correctly. And that just gives them kind of, the confirmation, and we get this taken care of. Next slide, please. Now, this one may seem silly, but we have a senior t-shirt incentive. And even the seniors in the beginning kind of looked at me like, you really want me to do all this for a t-shirt? But when we start handing out those t-shirts, it's amazing how many of them get the last few steps completed. So our seniors do receive a free t-shirt, which is a small price for us to pay, to help make sure they're on track for their post-secondary. But they have to have at least one college application submitted, their TN Promise application completed, and their FAFSA completed in order to earn their senior t-shirt. So it'll have a copper basin logo on the front and then something on the back that has all of their names included on it. So once I start handing out those t-shirts, it's amazing. Those few stragglers really get their FAFSA completed. That's usually the last sticking point because they want to, and they'll come show me their proof as soon as they get it done so they can get that t-shirt. And my last slide, I'm going to turn it over to Ireland just to talk a little bit about the portfolio.
Hi, I'm Ireland, a senior at Copper Basin High School. The portfolio that we have created has been such a great help for me. It's helped me keep up with all of my different things I've had to do during senior year, my Tennessee Promise, my resume, stuff like that. And we completed them the first semester of high school so that way I can work on the work I need for all my honors classes and all the other stuff. This is just kind of a look of what it looks like, and it has all my information inside that I need for future on. My senior advisors has been such great help helping me finish this and get it together for my future and my goals. So, yeah, it's really great having this because it is such great help. So,
thank you, Ireland. And that is, they've got everything in there from, proof of their college applications and everything for TN Promise, including their mandatory webinars, their volunteer hours, once they have FAFSA completion, plus they're working on their resume, their personal philosophy and essays, so that for scholarships, they've got everything prepared there, all in their binder, and they can easily get that submitted in time for, their college scholarships and applications. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Okay, next up, we have Lake County High School. They're in Tiptonville, Tennessee. They have 45 seniors, so again, a small school for the Tennessee FAFSA Challenge, and they are up 16.1% in their FAFSA completion of Tennessee Promise applicants.
Okay, one of the first things we do is work on the student FSA IDs, because that's one of the things you can do as soon as they get in school. So that's a biggie, and really important, because you can do that even when you're working on the Tennessee Promise. So for them to have that already done, that's a biggie.
And then Miss Tanya, actually, while she's working on that with the students, she gets a list from me. We have a lot of students who actually can be independent on the FAFSA. We have a lot of students that do not live with their parents here in Lake County. So we try to get a list together. So Miss Tanya, when she's working with those students, will know who can file independently on the FAFSA. So I get her a list of that. It's pretty much as soon when she starts working on the FSA ID. So.
Yeah, and one thing about that, I think this year we had 8 or 9.
Yeah,
So
we have a lot of them.
You get a good percentage. So if you can get that done, or your homeless liaison, which Michelle is that too. So.
Mhm.
The next thing is Senior Fest, which is a collaboration with the school, post-secondary partners, local businesses, military partners, and Balfour. Balfour comes earlier in the year. They give them the sheet and say, this is how much you're going to owe. You need to come this night. So it's a mandatory, and parents come. We have a lab set up for FAFSA. I bring in THEC and some of the local schools, like UT Martin is local for us, and TCAT, they send financial aid representatives, and we get a lot of them done that night. It's really, really a good way to do it.
We actually, that is the night that they get fitted for their caps and gowns. So that makes sure that it brings a lot of them in.
And we've been doing it for quite a while. And it worked. This last time it was really good. I guess since the students had been out so much, they were ready to get back in.
Right.
Okay, you can go next.
Once we get the list of the ones who have completed the FAFSA, we have the ones who we check it quite often. Get on there and check and see who hasn't done the FAFSA, and we make phone calls. We call parents quite a bit around here. We have a small group, so it's easy to do. But we get on the phone and we make phone calls to parents to try to set up appointments for them to come to the school and work on them or get them done themselves.
And then if parents don't come in right away, the students go ahead and do their part and save it. It's not submitted, it's the save part. And I think sometimes that gets the parent more interested, because the student, we can't tell you how much money you're going to have, and if that's what you're looking at, we can't do anything till the parents come in. So this year, that was a big deal too, that we went ahead and saved it and said, hey, you got to get your parent in. So.
Right. And one way to get parents in is parent-teacher conference. We have our parent-teacher conferences, so we try to have our computer lab set up that night with help for parents to come and work on FAFSA that night as well. So that helps out too.
And a big thing is our principal he's really interested in everything and the numbers. And that has been a big thing this year for us. He will make phone calls, not just Michelle, not just me. He will make phone calls. He'll send an email, and that's really, really important to have that collaboration and to have your principal so interested in what's going on with the school. You got anything else?
That's it.
That's it.
Baby. Okay, next up we have Union County High School. They are in Maynardville, Tennessee. They have 179 seniors, so they're considered medium for the Tennessee FAFSA Challenge, and they are up 25% in their FAFSA completion of their Tennessee Promise applicants.
Hey guys, so Ruthie Kaywood and Lacey Everett again here at Union County High School. So just first couple of slides, it's gonna be just about the activities and events that we have done in the fall up till now. So of course, we came in brand new to the school, started right really in August, yeah. Yeah. Brand new. So kind of creating, our program as we go, seeing what works here, seeing what we might want to change a little bit for next year. And so in August, we had a senior meeting with all seniors in the auditorium where we discussed expectations for for this year, what our responsibility as their college access counselors was going to be. In that meeting, we included specific information about, of course, the Tennessee Promise Checklist and most importantly about FAFSA. And this is really where we kind of started this consistent messaging that Lacey's going to follow up, talk a little bit more about in just a few minutes. And this messaging was just, you know, you got to say it 100 times before it gets through. So we started in that August meeting. And then so between August 23rd and September 30th, we were doing individual senior meetings. So we pulled every senior in to go ahead and do their promise applications, apply them to at least one promise eligible college, as well as any other colleges that they wanted to apply for. And then we really discussed in depth about information that we are going to need in order to help the student file their FAFSA and parents file the FAFSA. On October 1, we began individual meetings to complete and submit the student's FAFSA. If we had the student in our office and we got the student part done, we would reach out to a parent either by phone or virtually, or to try to set up an appointment for the parent to come in and finish that. And we'll go to the next slide. We did hold a FAFSA workshop on October 20th. Prior to that event, we had students come in and sign up for appointment slots for that day. So we did a day appointment workshop, and then in the evening, it was kind of an open workshop where parents and students could come in. So we had 4 stations during the day portion, and we enlisted our one of our THEC reps and one of our other AIRS counselors to come in. And so we had the 4 stations. And that kind of created a little bit of urgency, I think, just saying we've got 4 time slots for this time, this time frame. And so I think that helped a little bit with getting students to sign up. We fed them, because we know that anytime we can feed students and parents, that a lot of times they may, be more willing to come in. So we did feed them. We got 30 FAFSAs completed on that day, that's day and the evening part. And we ended up having around 89 seniors complete by the end of October. And we, of course, offered some FAFSA incentives, which helped with that. We did some gift card drawings and just some different FAFSA incentives. We had them do robocalls to our parents. And then in December, we did classroom sessions to kind of do another FAFSA push before Christmas break. And so we went into all the senior classes to say, hey, if there's anybody that's not complete, we really want to get you finished up before Christmas break. Also in those sessions, we talked to students about upcoming community service opportunities. And so we're going to actually have March 1st is going to be a job shadow day for all of our seniors here. And that's the day where they can go and do all of their community service on that day. And we are going to offer another incentive. So students that do get their community service completed on that day, we're going to do a drawing for prom tickets. So we try to just be a little creative about some of that stuff to try to encourage them to do the things that we need them to do. So, and then next slide, we'll let Lacey talk about other strategies.
Yeah, so like Ruthie said earlier, we have created a sense of urgency from the beginning, and we never actually advertised that FAFSA is due by February 1st. We came in with a personal goal of having all of our students completed by Christmas break, because we have, from the beginning, we've liked to work in sections. We take care of Tennessee Promise, then we do FAFSA, then we do community service, and we just hit it hard in that moment for whatever it is we're working on. So we set daily goals for ourselves, we set weekly goals for ourselves, and we pretty much were consistent with meeting those. We have sent out group emails to all parents and all students who have listed an email on their Tennessee Promise application. So we are consistent with reminding through email. we make calls, we text, we any chance that we can communicate with our students and parents, we're doing that. We have actually also had a lot of support from our staff and teachers and admin here, and so we've been able to send a list of students who we have kind of been out of touch with. We've been able to send a list of names through email and just let teachers know, hey, we have been missing this student. If you happen to have him or her in class, could you send him up? And they've been very helpful with that as well. And then we also have used social media. We have an Instagram for our school college access counseling program through Ayers here. And also we visit our senior classes often. If we have a list of things that we need to communicate, it's easiest if we just go into classrooms that we know is full of seniors. So the more we can put ourselves in front of that audience, the more successful we've been. And then also the school announcements. Anything that we post in our announcements, we also post to our Instagram, and we do that in hopes that everyone is going to see it at some point through the different ways. Next slide, please. And so this is just touching back on the social media. So we're gaining followers through parents and students, colleges, all the above. And so the more followers we get on there, we notice the more students are coming through our doors as well. And it's an easy way to engage with large groups. We are able to put our QR code out at any events we're at, and we're able to just keep it posted throughout the school so they can just click, follow, they see what's going on with FAFSA, they see our deadlines, and so it's just an easy way. It's very engaging. And it's fun because it's a good way to build relationships with our students whenever there's so many of them. And then the last thing that I was going to touch on was the organization, which kind of piggybacks off of some of the other things we've discussed here in this presentation. But if we know a student's independent, again, we pull them first. And then we will, if we have a hard time reaching students and parents, we will pull a student in first, do their portion, and then follow up with the parent. Sometimes if we can't reach the parent, we will have the student come back in here and call their parent, and just kind of, it's a way for us to say, hey, I know you haven't heard of me before, I'm new, but this is my job, and this is, I'm here to help your student. And so once they hear that, we're able to build a little more trust too. So, and those are our strategies that we've used, and we've had good success with it. We've been downstairs today trying to track in some seniors who are picking up their cap and gown that we have missed. So, but that's about it.
All right. Thank you all. So we've still got about 6 minutes left, and so we have some time for some questions and answers. Jesse, do you have any questions that have come in through the chat?
No, not yet, but would love to see some, y'all.
That's right. Feel free to use the chat. You may or may not be able to unmute yourselves. You may have to use the chat feature because of the way this is set up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I do have one question. The t-shirts that you guys did, how did you fund those? Where does the funding come from to buy the t-shirts?
Well, right now it is through Gear Up, but in past we've also had local businesses that sponsored the t-shirt, and then we would just put like their logo on the sleeve to go with it, and our local businesses were more than happy to do that for our seniors.
Suzette, we do have a question from Miss Connie. How do you get email addresses from Tennessee Promise applicants to send group emails?
Yes, so we actually keep a file for every student as well, and we write down information like that as we're filling out Tennessee Promise applications with them. And then we have some support from other members of the Ayers Foundation who actually create lists for us. So we do have that extra support in regards to emailing, but keeping a file with emails, phone numbers has been super helpful too.
We have Signal Vine. Advice Tennessee has Signal Vine, so we get all the students' numbers and we have their emails also. And then we have Remind here that Michelle uses to send out, whenever any kind of messages. So
We also use Signalvine, but at the beginning of the year, I went in with all our seniors and I had a Google form that I dropped into their Google Classroom, and they filled that out with parent email, their student email, and then phone numbers for both. And I just had that on file for all of our seniors.
Yeah, and I do use Google Classroom too, so it's another way. And I was going to say one thing about we did December 17th too. So we told the students that was Lake County's date, so that was a good way to get them in before Christmas. So.
Hey everybody, this is Troy Grant. Suzette told me I had a couple questions ready if there weren't any questions. So I'm gonna phone a friend and have a question. So when you think about, all three of your schools are at a place where you're set up pretty well for our March 1 deadline, right? What advice would you give, or what strategies, with your experience and how successful you have all been, with schools that are trying to make a push? I counted it. We have, not including President's Day, 12 days, school days until the deadline. So what advice would you give to schools that are really trying to push forward in this kind of last mile strategies that they should really be employing that would be kind of this last minute, high kind of impact thing to do right now?
I think they're going to have to make phone calls. They're going to have to make a lot of phone calls and emails and get the principal to call, that's the thing to do now.
Stay on the parents.
I agree. I would say communication as well, just getting in touch with those. We also just sent home a letter. We had a few students that had submitted theirs, but the parents had not completed their part yet. So we filled out a separate letter for them and sent it home to get the parent's signature, stating that they understand their child will not qualify for any money if the parents don't complete that part. And then we also had on there where they could give some basic information and my contact, so they could set a time with me to come in and get everything completed here before that March 1 deadline.
I would kind of agree with all that. For me, just being, I hate to say being a nag, but that's we have to be a nag and be persistent. And so I think just continuing to call them and to bring the student in and have the student call them, and you just have to keep doing that until you can get it completed, or at least that's, I think, how we've been kind of successful with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you can pull students from class, if you can just start making a list and pulling them one by one. We were successful with that, but we started doing this a while back, and we would have to, well, we didn't have to, but we tried to pull them out of gym or a class that really wouldn't affect a grade. But I think that was very helpful for us from the beginning.
All great suggestions. Thanks.
They are good suggestions. So I do want to be cognizant of your time. We've reached our 30-minute mark. I've got my contact info on the screen, suzette.telly@tn.gov, and my phone number. So please reach out to me at any time if you have questions about the Tennessee FAFSA Challenge or the Tennessee Path to College events. If you want to reach out to one of our presenters, just email me and I will forward that on to them. Thank you to all my panelists. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everybody who helped us today. And thank you for tuning in. And thank you for all you do for the students of Tennessee. And I will stop.